All right, great. We're gonna move on to the bourbon break. So
Woohoo!
Pete's bourbon is an old favorite. Today we have Maker's Mark. This is actually a normal size bottle. Sometimes they have teeny bottles you can buy, but this is the proper size you should buy. So Maker's Mark, we're having the standard Maker's Mark, which is a 90 proof. This is a 1.75 liter, which I feel like is a good like weekly supply of Makers. Tell us about Makers.
Okay, so here's the thing. Maker's Mark is the only bourbon that I've had and I've actually enjoyed. So I am very excited to cover this. Loving the little red top over here with the dropping wax seal thing going on over here. Super cool. Maker's Mark bourbon whiskey. It's a product information says that it's Kentucky smooth and approachable with an easy finish, a true contrast to hot, harsh whiskeys that blow your ears off, and a downright revolutionary idea at the time. Maker's Mark is made slowly in small batches in our National Historic Landmark Distillery in Loretto, Kentucky. Taste says that it's rich caramel, vanilla, oak, and balanced. Spirit style, it's a small batch bourbon, obviously from Kentucky. Loving some of the reviews over here, learning a lesson, and all the bourbons for the money, it's my go-to bourbon. So Steve, this being the only bourbon I've actually ever tasted, what are your comments?
Yeah, so Maker's Mark is an old favorite. This is they can call it small batch, but I feel like that's leaning pretty hard into the wind there because they're making it in giant vats. This is not their cask strength. This is not a single barrel. This is just Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark originally came out with an ad campaign saying it tastes expensive because it is. So they tried to separate themselves as a more expensive bourbon, but I think along the way they've dropped their price and it's actually quite reasonable. I get some semi-sweetness on the nose. I do get maybe a little bit of vanilla. I don't know about others.
I'm kind of getting a little honey.
Honey?
Okay.
Great copywriting on the bottle. Two sides, really good.
Really?
Very evocative, yeah.
First bourbon it breaches of 2023. I'm curious, as a non-native bourbon drinker, I'm curious, when you drink a bourbon, what are you looking out for? What are we looking for here?
Yeah. So I think that Maker's Mark hits a lot of the items I'm looking for. I'm looking for a bourbon that's smooth, not overly hot. I'm looking for a bourbon that has some interesting notes on the palate, usually some sort of wood element to it, some sweetness to it, maybe a little spice, a little rye spice, or some caramely or sugary from wheat. So Maker's Mark is a wheated bourbon, and so you get like a nice little roundness on the mouth from the wheated. Usually Makers, I would be making a highball out of it. Makes a great highball, and not usually sipping it. I go for other things for sipping that maybe have a little bit more complexity. But this is just a solid bourbon, a solid mainstay. And if I found this at a bar, like it's a go-to, right? You can reliably get it. So I would say this is a solid like 7 out of 10. For the price, it's a no-brainer. And I think this would be a good part of any liquor cabinet, probably for like highballs, mixed drinks, and then it's not bad for sipping.
Gabby, what are your thoughts?
I'm feeling the heat. When I first sip it, I get that sweet note a little bit, but then it turns to heat, and then I'm not really tasting any other note outside of that.
It has a lingering finish, so it does linger, and I just get sort of this lingering, like it's got a little bit of a heavier mouthfeel. So like this lingering, like it's coated my mouth with sweetness and a little bit of heat.
I feel like there's two notes that they probably didn't mention, and that's regret and disappointment for me personally.
Oh,
I was
Regret
getting
and
more, I was getting more of a
disappointment.
you
cherry.
go, Divya.
You say regret, but I'm getting more of a cherry.
Said you like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said this was your favorite bourbon.
Who said I didn't like regret and disappointment, first of all?
Fair.
Anyway, I,
Quickly, I'll just point in, the
Yes.
only other bourbon I've tried on Bourbon and Breeches was Angel's Envy, and so I'm gonna rate this a 7.5. I think that the initial sip and taste, it is very smooth. And so for that, I'm liking it. It's pretty sippable, but on the aftertaste, it's definitely as you alluded to, I don't know if there's a ton of complexity there. I can't speak to really the notes, but I do enjoy the smoothness of it, and it does have a good heat.
Did you like it more or less than Angels? Envy?
I think I liked it more. I believe I ranked the Angel's Envy around a 6.5.
you didn't like
Oh,
it
okay.
at all, yeah. You
Not
don't like
really.
it.
So I'm
Do you taste the notes of regret?
Yeah, do you get a little regret on the palate? And
Disappointment.
I'm-
Maybe on the back of the tongue, a
Or-
little.
Or
little
what
regret?
is your specific regret? Yeah,
So,
Shot,
I
yeah.
mean, as of now, no regret.
Is this
there
yours?
you go.
Oh, no, I don't drink.
Oh,
This was poured for
Oh,
somebody.
okay.
But
all right.
what I remember of Maker's Mark, I do
thought
think
you-
the cinnamon and nutmeg.
Cinnamon?
perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of cherry, cinnamon, spice.
And it comes through the nose at the end. It's not afterward.
Yes, it needs a splash of Coca-Cola, in my opinion.
Ooh,
Yeah, I know.
offensive.
I would agree with
Okay.
that.
All right. All right.
The only way to take Makers is a double Makers with Coke, sans Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ginger, whiskey, no.
Hold the Coke.
cut that
yeah,
beat.
hold the. Today's episode sponsored not by Coke. All right, and that's been the Bourbon Break.